Have you figured out your niche? Are you helping adding value to other people's lives? Then you're in the right place. Welcome to Munira's Musings with your host, Munira Zahabi.
Greetings from Chicagoland. This is Munira's Musings, coming to you live with another guest, another story, another resilience, another business, and how they found their niche. Welcome, Nancy Lucas.
Thank you for having me.
You are welcome. Nancy is our guest all the way from Virginia, USA. And she is a businesswoman. She helps people figure out mindset and how to be resilient in your business. So welcome. Um, you're welcome. And so you know that Munira's Musings is a show where we find people who have found their niche or are finding their niche, and they talk about their path to the niche, because there's so many people out there who haven't yet figured out what their niche is or how to find it. And sometimes a niche falls into your lap, or you've had it for a while and you don't know what you're doing with it. So until you hone in and you listen to other people's stories is when you resonate with what you have and then put your efforts to work. So welcome to our show, Nancy. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, in a nutshell, I am a mid-50-something-year-old woman with two grown children. Thank goodness they're in their 30s, happy, healthy, great, off and running. And I am a multifaceted entrepreneur. I'm kind of what you'd call a serial entrepreneur. I have started 5 companies, sold 2 of them. 2 are still in existence, and I'm running both of them. And I'm also was a professional athlete for 30 years.
Oh, wow.
So as a professional equestrian, so I did competitive show jumping. That took a toll on my body, which actually sent me into the online business atmosphere, because I knew that I couldn't do that for the rest of my life. I knew that I had to do something. I always did another business because I always needed to funnel money into a retirement. I wasn't the woman who owned the horses. I was the person that got paid to train and ride horses and teach people. So I always I always had businesses. And I love starting businesses. I love creating. That's my thing. I'm a founder. Um, I just recently retired. Thank goodness that this whole path has led me to be able to retire. See the horses behind me, led me to be able to retire from a very wonderful life in the equestrian world, but a very hard toll on my body. So now I'm able to be healthy, happy, not worry about being in pain, and take care of myself and work toward that different lifestyle and work. I'm working this full time now.
So how did you find the horse career, the equestrian? I mean, was it something that you did as a child?
It was just in my life, really. I mean, I grew up as a child all around horses and fox hunting and riding. And then it was something I did. I was the kid at the barn as a child. I did anything I could to be around horses and ride. I was the one tacking up the horses, cleaning the stalls, anything I could do. I ended up going to school for equine science and English, and then went on to school later for a master's degree in actually landscape architecture. But the it was just a love of mine. And I always say that I had this much talent, but I had this much work ethic. So, but the tenacity it takes to, I love to parallel the tenacity it takes to be an athlete is very similar. It is for being an entrepreneur. You have to do it's. I think about basketball. People don't know anything about horses, but if you think about a basketball player, that basketball player who does that foul shot, he doesn't do it once. He does it a million. He does it thousands and thousands of times.
Yes.
And for me as an athlete, we ride horses and we do something and we practice something for years and we do it thousands and thousands of times. And it's very, very natural for me in business to do the mundane, to do the boring. It's okay to dig the ditch, because I know when you repeat and you're repetitive and you do something and it's like breathing, and you do it well, that's when success occurs.
No, that's true. It's consistency. It's doing it over and over again and being an expert. So I was at a 3-day conference this past weekend, and that's what theme was: duplication, right? Keep duplicating, but and then if you have to tweak a little, just go tweak a little, but don't do everything. And the other theme was be good at what you are doing, right? Be good at the one thing that you're supposed to do. Many times in my career, in my field, I've seen people have the shiny object syndrome, where people are just moving, oh, this doesn't work, this has to work, this has to work, this has to work. And I was there, and I recognize it because I have seen it a lot. And the thing is, you can't, a long time ago in my English class, I read Rolling Stone doesn't gather any moss. And I never figured that out until recently, when I said, no, I need to be good at what I do. And that's the only thing I'm doing, right?
I like the rule of ones. Do one thing very well. Do it one thing for, I try to do one thing for 1 year, and I master it. And then I'll add one more thing, just one at a time.
Yes.
I mean, I used to think that we could multitask. Now I'd rather be great at one thing.
That's awesome. Thank you. So how did you go from equine industry to business building? I mean, I know you've done businesses, but that came naturally to you, or because now you're teaching women to be resilient?
It's, well, there's a little bit to that. I have a short backstory, and I'm going to tell you a bit more of an in story.
Sure.
The backstory is I became a single mother very early on. So my children are in their 30s. So when you become a single mother, you really can't continue a equestrian career. You can't travel. So I became a business consultant. I was in sales, and I worked in New York. And you really, and that's what then led me to, after 6 years of that, I took a huge risk and started companies of my own. That was a first huge risk. And I learned a lot. But that being said, I was able to then go back into paralleling both. Okay. Right. Step forward 15, 18 years. Recently, one of the things I like to talk more about real time, something that I think people can really feel is, and I really don't, people are like, oh, let's stop talking about the pandemic. Let's stop. And I don't really think it's a pandemic thing. I think change is constant. And the pandemic to me is about change, and something that we all need to start to be comfortable with. For me, the pandemic was just a thing that is happening that is allowing me to get comfortable with huge change. Now, for me, I was diagnosed with cancer, and I am cancer free. I'm going to have a scan actually this week, so fingers crossed that we're still good. It was a form of stomach cancer, and then it ended up being intestinal cancer, which is what pushed me into closing my equestrian business and retiring, which was not a bad thing. It was something I was looking to do. It just wasn't on my own terms. So that was difficult, but that was okay. What that did is it pushed me into something that was really new for me. I've been having companies, I've been helping women, mentoring women into their own business for, since before 2000, for many years. But I've always been belly to belly. I've always been person to person. So coming home, being afraid, we have two options. When we're afraid, we have awareness, and then either we panic or we have choices in our response. Once we make a plan, there's a calmness, and then we can breathe, and then it's our choice and our response, and that is key. And it's not everybody has cancer, not everybody has a huge traumatic event, but there's relativity for everyone. Everyone has something that makes them afraid. Sometimes it could be you can't find your car keys. You have a choice in how you're going to respond. So in any business, we have choices in how we respond to any daily event, or how we handle things or processes, whatever we want to go forward with. My point was that with what happened in these last few months, I came home. I was afraid for about a week. I came up with a plan. I I was able to relax and breathe. I had to work on the mindset because going out and having to make money doesn't work. I went into gratitude and service and basically grew my business by 200 to 300% in a matter of months. And how I did that was I became vulnerable. And I got on this. First thing I did was hire an Instagram coach because I didn't know anything about virtual platforms. This was new for me. So resilience was I knew I had to delegate. I knew I had to find help. I knew I needed a coach. I knew I was good at what I did, but I knew I needed. I knew what I knew. I knew I needed help, and it's okay to ask for help. And you'd have to put the work in, and you have to accept that you have good days and bad days. Sounds easy when I talk about this, but let me tell you, there were days I was on the floor.
I love the fact that you have such a calming personality, and you were able to come home and make a plan. That is the most important thing, because most people go into a panic mode and do not know how to deal with it. I'll give you an example for myself, because you know I don't know, most of my listeners know that my husband passed away in January, but I didn't know, and I wasn't ready for him to go in January, right?
Sorry.
He was sick. Yeah, so he was sick. I was willing to do everything it took to get him better, including giving my kidney to him. And I was taking medicines to put lower my blood pressure, which they said was too high. But when he passed away, I took him to the hospital on Friday about 11 o'clock at night, and Tuesday morning he was gone. So in those 3 days, I had to, when I came home because from the hospital, it happens just so fast because we don't leave the body. We got the death certificate and they buried him. He passed away about noon, and then he was buried by 5 p.m. And so I come home, and then it was like a rush. Everybody's taking me, somebody's taking to my aunt's place, his aunt's place. We had the prayers there. The COVID hadn't started then, and we were all together, and everybody's talking, and I'm like, what is going, it didn't hit me really until I came home.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't have a plan. So I had to, for me, it was like a fog. My daughters came from everywhere. My son-in-laws came from Seattle, Canada. My stepson was here. Everything was happening at the same time. And what I did was there was so much chaos. We just moved into a 2-bedroom apartment, and there was so much chaos, and I couldn't handle it because I've always been the person that's the mother, and I needed nurturing myself, and I didn't know who to go to. So what I did was I took my car keys and I went downstairs in the garage, took my car, and drove onto the behind the building, and there's a parking lot there for guests, and I just sat there and I cried, and I had to figure out what I was going to do next. And it became clear that I was alone, and I'm being vulnerable right now, but that's the thing, is like we don't have a plan. And for 2 months I sat on a couch and just sat there thinking, what am I going to do now?
Right.
For the first month, there was a lot of things that you had to do, right? Get a lot of government stuff, paperwork, things done. All of that was done. But after that, it was like, what do I do now? And then COVID hit.
Thank you for sharing all this.
Thank you. But all of these things had to become a plan. And I had to sit there and just figure out how I was going to take that. But I love the fact that you came home and just had a plan. So that personality talks volumes.
Well, but also sometimes we have to take the time to feel.
Yeah.
And you did.
You have to, because otherwise you go crazy.
Well, yeah, it's process. And it comes in waves. Loss is a loss. And interestingly, I without and I'm gonna, I love it that you shared that. Thank you. The loss, I moved to Virginia. I had to sell my townhome after I could, I had to leave my townhome in order to put it after I got stabilized with cancer and had treatments. I came home. My townhome sold in 10 hours, and everything happened so fast that I was working this business and moving, and all this stuff was happening within, about 6, 7 months. And I felt so frantic. I felt like I was putting square pegs in round holes. And I'm going to share that I realized I didn't take time to mourn the loss of a 30-year career. I was so focused on building something new and trying to make it be what that was. And I didn't take the time. And it was a really hard thing, even though it was something I had planned to do at some point. It was taken from me in a way that I didn't have a choice.
Yeah.
And it was and I remember when I spoke with someone about it, she said, "How did it feel when you lost your father or your brother?" This is no different. And it was, and you still have to mourn the loss. Of course, it's different, but, and it's guttural, and your business just gets taken.
I know, and that's the thing, is like we never think about it that way unless we are actually selling the business, or we are actively, like you were selling that townhouse, you knew that this had to go.
Right.
And like I had a 5-story house and I had to sell it in order to downsize. So all of those things, we know, we are prepared mentally for it.
Right.
And we've thought about it. But when things like this happen,
But I did go through a panic. I did. And I have to tell you, asking for help is hard. I tell my clients, and when I speak, I say, asking for help for a lot of people, as I say, is reaching into your deepest level of intelligence and honesty. Oftentimes we don't want to do that because asking for help is something difficult, and it's being open and honest, and you have to be smart.
I think part of it is because we don't want to feel vulnerable, right?
Yes, vulnerable. That's right. But I did, and it took about a week or 10 days, and then it did take time. There was a shock factor.
So you had to move careers.
I had to shift one, close one. So I still had a career there, but I did have to shift it, completely. And to go online was 100% was a little scary. But I knew, I had enough tenacity and I had enough sense. And luckily, I had time under my belt that I knew what I need. I had an idea what I needed to do. But it was still I didn't know the territory. So it was not easy.
So you went completely online. So how is your business working now?
Well, this is interesting. Something you said at the beginning of the morning, the very beginning of this talk, you said something about the niche and how it evolves. Well, actually, I don't know if you used the word evolve. Maybe you did, but that's something I wanted to say. For me, I think when you talked about it on your page, I said something about a sandbox. And for me, I think it has evolved. My business is doing really, really well. And part of it, I think, is because I went through this transformation. I did not know. I've always been, if I could sit across the table from someone, it was great. I was very, very worried about being able to portray my energy in a brand, if you will, online. I've been able to create brands and on companies and sell them, but online, I thought, what am I going to do? I can't do this. I was the mother that gave the clicker to my kids and had them work the VCR. I thought, what am I going to do? I just hired a VA. I'm not going to do my Kajabi. Can't even get my email stuff to work. So I know I could delegate, but I did learn through this that I can put my energy out there. I can create that brand. I can create trust, and I am it's growing. And I'm basically, in doing that, I've learned where my true niche is, where I'm able to truly, truly help women, where I thought it was one thing, it turns out to be something completely different.
And that's what it is, right? Niches fall into your lap, or sometimes because you're just looking for one thing, but then you find something else. But I always believe that your niche changes with your season of your life. You know,
Right.
you may be good at something right now. Like my daughter, she's very good at skincare, but she has three little kids, right, under the age of 4. So the youngest one is like 7 months, and she's like, how am I going to take my career elsewhere? And I said, well, why don't you teach people about skincare and motherhood, right? Because all
Yeah.
mothers need to feel good. And she was like, oh yeah, that's good, because my daughter looks like $1 million every single day. She has to look good and she has to feel good. And I said, what mother doesn't?
Of
When you
course.
have dirty diapers and you have this and you have that, and so she was telling my other daughter who had a baby recently, and she was telling her sister that you need to just take 5 minutes of yourself and do some skincare and put some foundation on. And well, and that one was like, I don't have time for that, right? Two sisters talking. And I said, you're so good at your skincare stuff. Why don't you teach other mothers? Because even though it's pandemic and women are not going out, it doesn't mean that you have to look good for people out there. You have to look for people inside you. And she's like, yeah, I can do that. So she shifted. So it's like niches change, but you can do the core thing, but just change it a little bit like you did.
Yeah.
Such an amazing story. Thank you so much for sharing.
You're very
So,
welcome.
so you teach, so tell tell my listeners three things that they can do right now to either to shift, to become resilient, something. How did you do it, and share your secrets?
Absolutely. I'd love to. That's the key. The key is you can hear exactly what to do. The key is how, right? You can read anything. It's the how factor. Um, my three things are this, and I know you, and people are going to hear this all the time, but I'm going to put it into a how thing for you because this is great. Mindset, 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 mindset. And this is not a woo woo,
Yeah.
but I'll tell you, if your head is not in front of what you want, if your brain is not in front, you won't get there. And then I'm going to give you a quick, I'm going to paint a picture of why that is. How many times have you heard of someone winning the lottery and they lose it all? Almost
Oh,
all the
lots
time.
of times. Lots of
All
times.
the time. Because if somebody was used to having $20,000 and all of a sudden they have 20 million, their brain is not connected, wrapped, or ready to have more than $20,000. Therefore, they end up back. I don't care if they have the best money manager in the world. They're back at $20,000 or less because they blow it. So that's a picture. How? Number one, 30 minutes of personal development every day, period. Listen to Munira,
Thank you.
listen to podcasts, listen to Audible, anything by Brene Brown, anything by, I personally, my favorite is Stephen Covey, Seven Highly Effective Habits of Highly Effective People. Sorry about that. Wonderful for life and business. I've listened to it every year for 14 years. I did their leadership program. That will keep you ahead and so that you can grow because you can't grow past where you want to be. And in doing that, part of that personal development, right. When I was in panic mode, I went to gratitude. And when I was in gratitude, I was able to give service and grow. Gratitude and write your goals. So goals, gratitude, and personal development. Okay, that's number one. Number two is taking action.
You said goals, gratitude, and
Personal
growth.
development.
So growth, right?
Yes.
Okay.
To grow. Goals, gratitude to grow.
Okay.
Okay,
Love it.
you have to. Um, action. When you take action, it's amazing. Just taking action. And I'm going to take it a step further. When you take action, it does two different things. Not only do you see results, but I want you to focus on you'll see results from taking action. I want you to write down what the actions you're going to take. It might be the first day, if you're not used to taking any action, say, I'm going to make 3 phone calls. I'm going to talk to 3 new people. I'm going to do, then once it gets going, I'm going to talk to 3 new people, to 3 reach outs, but I'm going to tell you why and how. When you take action, it builds your confidence. Don't even worry about the new people that you're bringing in. I'm going to create a circle. You're bringing people in, writing content, doing posts, talking to people, going live. It builds your confidence. It brings people in. It also builds your own belief. It builds your belief in what you're saying, who you are, what you're doing. It builds the belief of the people that you're bringing in, which then makes you want to create more activity because it feels good. Okay? That's 2. The other thing is reward yourself on your activities and your actions versus the results. I know that sounds crazy. I used to be a business consultant, and I tell you, they would fight me on this, but they always won. If you can focus on your company's actions and their processes over beyond instead of the bottom line for a little while, you'll find that the bottom line will go through the roof. Because if you focus on your activities, on what you're doing, rather than the result, like every time you do something that's really, really hard and you reward yourself, you will make money. It's when you're always focusing on, I got to get this, you won't get it.
You have to do the action. It's doing the action.
Exactly. So, you need to get more clients, right? I'm just going to say this. So we want to get more clients always. We always want to get more people, more traffic, more clients. You can't say that part because that doesn't do anything, right? That's not actually getting anywhere. What we want to do is, I need to talk to more people. So today, every day, I'm going to talk to 10 people. At the end of the day, I'm going to pour myself a glass of wine. If I don't talk to those 10 people, I don't get a glass of wine. So I'm going to talk to 20 people, and then I get a bigger glass of wine.
Ah,
See, that's how I do it. And then at the end of 2 weeks, I have a new client. Because I know if I talk to 10 people, I get, after every 10 people, I get 1 customer, over time after how many touches. So you do your data. I mean, that's a whole nother conversation. So those are my 3 things.
no, I love it. I love it. So growth, the 3 G's.
Yes.
And then you said to reward yourself on doing the action,
Yes.
but then write down your goals every single day. Just make sure that you follow that plan that you create.
Absolutely. But remember that as you do these things, you're building your own confidence, you're building your belief, and you're building the belief and the confidence of all the circle of people watching you.
See, and that's the thing, right? Most people, so I'll tell you my story on the 3rd point that you talk about is my friend said she's doing a diet and she shared the diet with me. And it's like, you have to eat small meals and it's 1,200 calories, right? And the thing is, I wasn't used to it. Sometimes there were days when I was very, very hungry. But she said, if you feel like that, just munch on a celery stick. And I was like, that's not food, right? But in doing so, I have lost quite a bit of weight and I'm proud of that. But it has allowed me also to be very conscious. So those little steps that you're talking about is not reward the action, but not the results. That part is when I go to my son's house or my daughter's house and there's a feast over there. I will take what I need from that and eat whatever is on my plate, and that's it, right? And they always worry that I'll ask for more or they offer me more food and I'm like, I'm done. And they are now okay. It's been 3 months, but they are okay now with the fact that I am sticking to what my goals are. And when I feel good, the result, taking the small action, I feel good at not taking more food and, not going overboard with not going off the rail, if you will, for my diet, right? But it allows me that 2 teaspoons of ice cream when everybody's having that. That's my reward, right?
Right.
I like that. I really like that, but I haven't had anybody put it that way. So thank you so
You're
much for
focusing on
sharing.
the feeling, and that's even better.
Yeah,
Focusing on
because
your feelings. Yes.
I feel so good,
Yeah.
and sometimes I tell my kids, I feel good.
That's
They think I'm
awesome.
crazy.
No,
But
I love it.
hey, you know what? I enjoy it because I feel like I haven't done this for myself. But it's not about you. So it's anything. You can take the same things that you're talking about and put it to anything in your life, right?
Anything.
And
Anything in life.
it's gonna be amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. So Nancy, where do people find you?
You can find me on Instagram. That's the easiest. I mean, that's where my business is, and that from there you can find everything. I think I gave you a link.
Yes, yes. And so we'll put that link under there. And thank you so much for
You're
ladies and
welcome.
gentlemen. This is a coach with a different light, a different beacon in the business world because she's thinking differently. But that's what it is all about. It's a different strategy to move forward in life. So she's shared great points with us, and I'm sure you've been taking notes. So go ahead and put these strategies in work. And the one thing is, it's not about the results, it's about taking action. So reward yourself on being here, one, for being here and listening to this show, Munira's Musings, because we are here to help you. And if you can't figure out what to do, we can help you shed the light on your new path. Thank you so much. And if you like this show, please share, like, and subscribe to our channel. We will see you next Monday with another guest. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Munira's Musings with your host, Munira Zahabi. If you enjoyed our show, please share and subscribe to this channel. And for more content, please join our Facebook group.